This episode of Arcane Carolinas is brought to you by Squat Shots.
Pew, pew, pew.
It's important that if you are allergic to Squat Shots, that you do not use Squat Shots. Squat Shots are a product of
BDDY Holdings Incorporated,
a diagonally integrated company with several major subsidiaries.
You are listening to Arcane Carolinas, an exploration of the Carolinas' folklore, legends, myths, and modern weird. Each episode, we examine the historical context of our topic and aim to preserve some of the stories that help make this part of the world such a fascinating place.
Would you do our intro?
Oh, yeah, I guess I got to do that, huh?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm your co-host, Charlie Mushaw.
And I am your other co-host, multi-ordering novelist, Michael G. Williams.
You are listening to Arcane Carolinas.
Yeah, this is part of our spooky season, massive back up the truck full of episodes time.
And if the audio is a little different today, it's because I'm on the road, like Charles Carrolt. The thing I remember most about the people of Arcane Carolinas.
He was my fraternity brother.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah, when he was an undergrad at UNC, he belonged to the same fraternity I did. So, this episode is going to be a me episode, and we're going to talk about a haunted public service building. I kept trying to just think of like ways to kind of tell you what the episode is about without telling you what the episode is about, and that was the best thing to come up with. But this story takes place in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
According to native-lands.ca, which is a place, it's a website that lets you map a location and see what indigenous peoples lived there before colonizers got here. According to that site, this part of Charlotte was part of the Chiraw or Sara Nation. We've talked about them a lot in the past, so I'm not going to go deep dive into them, but they lived near Jawara, near modern-day Hickory, and once the Spaniards showed up in the 16th century, they just started relocating south, and we're out of here. And over time, eventually they established towns in what's now South Carolina. Are you, by chance, familiar with old station number 4 for the Charlotte Fire Department?
No, I am only familiar with station number 9 on the New York Transit line.
Oh, okay. This is not that. According to legend, there is a haunted firehouse in Charlotte, North Carolina.
I got 4 guys for that. It's going to be fine. That's an easy one.
Okay, right? It's very, I felt like just right out of the gate. I was like, okay, this one's going to appeal to Charlie. So the station in question is old station number 4 at what is now 420 West 5th Street in Charlotte. This is literally in the shadow of one of the brand new apartment buildings in the central part of Charlotte that gets referred to as uptown, but the rest of us would think of as downtown.
Yep.
You can look it up on a map with that information, but if you happen to already be a history buff regarding Charlotte, it is a couple of blocks from the first colonial cemetery in Charlotte, which is itself going to be an episode topic at some point.
Okay.
Yeah, this is like the very center of Charlotte. The legend goes that early in the 20th century, sometimes it's written in descriptions of this legend as April 4th, 1934, when old station number 4 was a Charlotte Fire Department station in active use.
Can I correct myself? I'm so sorry. I have to interject this because we will get email about this. It's engine number 9, not station.
Okay. Yes. Well, then you never know. It might have been engine number 9 at station number 4. So,
sorry.
That's okay. The legend goes that early in the 20th century, sometimes it gets written as having happened on April 4th, 1934, depending on what website or book you find the story in. When old station number 4 was a Charlotte Fire Department station that was in active use, a fireman fell to his death trying to slide down the pole in the fire while responding to a call.
That's like, no, that's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. And shortly after, fire department staff and first responders working there began reporting eerie experiences in the station. For instance, the fireman in question was said to be a cigar smoker, and the living would report smelling cigar smoke in the building, especially on the upper landing and in the living quarters of the station, even though no one else smoked cigars. There were also reports of seeing a fireman in full gear, walking around a corner and vanishing, or failing to respond when called to if someone saw him walking around the place when everyone else was accounted for, and no one should have been where he was seen. According to the legend, the station was eventually shut down. Sometimes the legend is told to suggest that the shutting down of the station had to do with these sort of ghostly goings-on, and it has been a series of businesses ever since. A lot of those businesses have reported ghostly phenomena. Some supposedly were driven to close by these phenomena, while others are said to have had trouble getting contractors to do work in the building. In most versions of the legend, it is noted that an antique store used to operate in that space and was particularly plagued by things like full-body apparitions, the smell of cigar smoke, items being moved around, items disappearing from the store, all manner of sort of mischievous phenomena. And that when they had electrical problems in the building, the electrician working to make repairs had so many hair-raising experiences that he fled the building and refused to return. Today, it's said the building sits empty and the owners have trouble getting new businesses to move in because everyone knows the place is haunted.
People are saying, Michael.
People are saying, I am a person, and I am saying,
it is haunted.
Yes. So is any of that true?
I hope so.
As far as I can tell, every word of it is true.
Yes. This is great. I have so many things I want to say, but I didn't want to cut you off again after I butchered that rap lyric and interrupted your thing.
So here's the history behind the legend of Old Station Number 4. In 1925, the city of Charlotte commissioned the design and construction of Station Number 4 to address the growing need for fire and rescue services as Charlotte and its population were rapidly growing. This was a boom era. This was the roaring 20s. Charlotte has always been a place that grows, especially during bursts of economic growth. This is also the time period when the Dunhill Hotel was built.
I was about to say, they were putting that fancy wallpaper in the Dunhill around this time.
Exactly.
And that really fancy kitchen they had.
Yeah. Like that was built in 1929 to meet the rapidly growing need. Both.
You like that? That's what I remember from that episode, like how nice the kitchen was and that they got fancy wallpaper.
I do like that. But like this was a time when Charlotte needed new. They needed more temporary lodging. It needed more permanent lodgings. The Dunhill was built as part of the same economic boom period and the growth of the city. Originally, the Dunhill was 50 hotel rooms and 50 apartments. And in fact, the Dunhill and Old Station Number 4 are only 3 blocks from each other. With that graveyard.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned the cemetery. Yeah, and the first thing, when you first mentioned the cemetery, I'm like, I wonder if that's the same one that we talked about in the Dunhill episode.
It
but
is.
I couldn't remember. Aha! I'm not crazy.
You are not. Station Number 4 was built to accommodate the growth, literally, also, of the equipment used to fight fires at the time, and the infrastructure needs that equipment faced. The city of Charlotte was transitioning away from horse-drawn firefighting wagons to motorized fire engines. And so this station was built to accommodate these sort of cutting-edge principles of design at the time and the construction materials available at the time. It had concrete floors instead of wooden ones to accommodate heavier equipment. And it had a 2-story living space with a kitchen so that firemen could live there when they were on duty and remain on site at all times. It had doors that were bigger to accommodate larger equipment. Stuff like that was being addressed by building this fire station.
I think it's important to interrupt for a second here and note that you just said it was a change that it didn't have dirt floors. This is only 100 years ago.
Yeah.
There was an establishment that I won't name that I frequented at one point, and it was an old bar. And it was like, oldest bar in town, whatever, and it had a dirt floor in the back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. So the ghost. This part in my notes is titled The Death of Pruitt Black.
Oh, Pruitt.
Poor old Pruitt. We talk a lot about how the more specific a legend's details get, the easier it gets to research and to discover that it just doesn't hold water.
Mm-hmm.
But not in this case. Not in this case at all. This is recent enough, and the death of a public servant was big enough news that I kind of went in expecting to dig through some old newspapers and some vital records and kind of come up empty, which would be right next door to proving the negative, and sort of thus disproving the legend, but it's hard to prove the negative. In fact, the details of this legend are well documented, and the event was literally front page news in Charlotte at the time.
I bet.
Yeah, top of the front page above the fold of the Charlotte Observer on April 2nd. So when you see this, a lot of times it's referred to as having happened on April 4th, but it happened on April 1st. The headline reads, Charlotte fireman loses life in fall at fire station. He goes on to detail that on the morning of Sunday, April 1st, 1934, Station Number 4 received a call to respond to an emergency on Beatty's Ford Road, which is a place we've talked about in other legends. Mm-hmm. At 7:30 a.m., when the alarm rang, the active duty crew were asleep in the dormitory upstairs. As they ran to respond, fireman Pruitt L. Black was pulling on his coat, and as he reached for the pole to slide down it, his foot slipped at the edge of the opening in the floor, and he fell through, landing headfirst on the concrete floor 14 feet below.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it. Real fast. One of the trucks responding to the call stayed behind to give first aid and wait for an ambulance. He was taken to a nearby hospital, but he was declared dead 3 hours later. As a consequence of all that, the station was draped in black to mark the tragedy. A few days later, other firemen from the station served as pallbearers at his funeral. He was buried in Elmwood Cemetery, and his grave is maintained and entirely visible and able to be visited today. If you happen to look him up on something like Find a Grave, there are many versions of this legend that spell his first name as Pruitt, Pruitt, but his headstone spells it as Pruitt, Pruett, and that can lead people to say that that stone doesn't exist, but it does. In 1972, the Charlotte Fire Department stopped using Station Number 4 because, again, fire trucks had gotten even larger, and the bays in Fire Station 4 were not wide enough for modern fire trucks. So they moved the trucks to a different station. They retained ownership of the building, and it sat empty for a couple of days. Then in the 90s, it started being rented out as retail space. Today, it's in the National Register of Historic Places, and to this day, to my knowledge, it is empty again after a series of businesses having opened and closed in it.
I would like to put this out there that if anyone would like to become a corporate sponsor of Arcane Carolinas and give us a headquarters to conduct research and build an archival library of the things we've gathered over the years, that would be a really nice place to do it.
It'd be a heck of a commute, though. I don't know.
I'm just picturing like maybe the Monopoly man is out there and listens to our show and is like, you know what? Let's make it happen. I just put it out there. If somebody wants to bankroll that, I'd go hang out in the haunted fire station.
I'd go every now and then. So what about the haunting?
There's big banks in Charlotte. Maybe somebody out there listens. Maybe they'll do it. Maybe they'll put us in a spooky place. I don't know.
Maybe.
Well, Monopoly man.
Maybe we'll win the favor of one of the growing number of billionaires. So, since that's the only future left. That was grim. Anyway,
I'm running out of organs to sell. We're going to need a...
Yeah, for real, you know. Mine aren't exactly top shelf to begin with. So what about the haunting part of it? In 2003, a writer named Stephanie Burt Williams, no relation, to my knowledge, published a book called Ghost Stories of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County, Remnants of the Past in a New South.
That was a long title, girl.
That was a long title. That book, as far as I can tell, is out of print now. But last year, I was able to find a copy in the North Carolina State Library and read it then. I really recommend seeing if you can get a copy from your local library or through interlibrary loan or anything like that, because used copies are pretty expensive online if you can find them. And it has some great stories. I am not kidding. At least one of them is going to be a different future episode. Importantly, these were all stories I had never heard before and were deeply researched. Like, really loved that book. Fantastic book. Literally, it had 0 retreads of the sort of common folklore that we just see copied and pasted everywhere. And it mostly featured ghost stories from buildings that we would consider pretty modern by ghost story standards. A lot of them were 20th century construction that have ghost stories attached to them, which I was so thrilled by. For that book, she interviewed several people who had worked in that building over time or had owned businesses in that building, and they all reported the cigar smell.
I love this lady already. The fact that she went and like sought people out, interviewed them, didn't retread stuff. Mm-hmm. It's a shame the book's not still in print.
Yeah, really is. You know, I haven't done any looking into her as an author. I hope she's still out there, still writing. If so, I hope that she finds a new home for that book because it was fantastic. In fact, the owner of the antique store from the legend, whom she interviewed, they opened that antique store in 1987 and told Williams that the first time he toured the place while location scouting for where to open a store, he was worried the place had squatters living in it because it smelled like someone had just smoked a cigar in the place when he walked in. He said that he was really worried by that and had to be talked out of going somewhere else by the real estate agent on the assurance that the place was locked up tight. There was no way anybody had been in there. So he went ahead with his plans to open that antique store. And he very often experienced walking in to open in the morning and smelling cigar smoke as though someone had just put out a cigar. One version of this that I read was by somebody who really wanted to debunk it. And they were like, well, it's a fire station. Of course it smells like smoke. And I was like, that doesn't mean that's where they set fires.
Also, tell me you've never smoked a cigar by telling me you've never smoked a cigar.
It was just like the dumbest possible debunking that I had ever heard was that because it's a firehouse, of course it smells like smoke. That makes 0 sense. It was the silliest thing I've ever heard.
Also, cigars do not smell anything like structure fire.
Yeah, come on. He would walk in every morning. It would smell like somebody just smoked a cigar. He also had some electrical issues. His was the first business to open in the place. It was the first time the building was back in use since the 70s. And so it was an old building. It had really old wiring. It had been empty for a long time. So he had a lot of electrical issues. He brought in an electrician. And the first electrician that he brought in asked him explicitly about, quote, the guy upstairs.
Oh, no.
It turned out he had seen someone in fireman's gear walk through the upstairs of the building. When the electrician called it a greeting, the person walking through did not respond. And when the electrician followed where the guy went, because it was into a place where he didn't think anybody should be going, and he didn't think there was supposed to be anybody up there, when he got there, whoever he had seen could not be found, and there were no exits from that part of the building.
Love it.
The electrician also saw the same figure walk through as though they saw them walk through the store, and as though turning a corner to go through a door, vanish. A moment later, the store owner downstairs saw the same figure appear in the store, walk across it, and vanish against the wall, as though they had just walked through the wall. It turned out that that was in a location where the original exterior door headed outside had been.
A very Beetlejuice. They go to the door and then bloop, they're like back inside kind of thing.
Very interesting that 2 people in the building independently see the same figure, walk through walls, go places where there are not doors, but there used to be, stuff like that. So with that electrician quit on the spot and would not return. So the antique store owner had to get a different electrician to come and finish the work. He said that he had a ton of experiences like that along the same lines, but that he never felt threatened by them. And in fact, he felt protected by the presence of the ghost.
When you were sharing the legend, I couldn't help but think, I was like, well, I mean, you could do a lot worse.
A lot worse ghosts have around than somebody who really wants to take care of the place.
Right.
So the antique store owner did some digging. He found the story of Pruitt Black. He then found a photo of Black and said, That was the same person as the apparition he had seen walk through the store on multiple occasions. After that, he told Williams he would call out to Pruitt Black when he opened and closed the store. He'd wish him a good morning, wish him a good night, say hello, say goodbye. And he said after that, he never had any problems with anybody being scared off.
Interesting.
Over time, friends of his, customers of his would give him bits and pieces of historical firefighter gear because the store was in an old fire station. And he started to build this display of firefighter gear in sort of in honor of the building's history.
Mm-hmm.
He said that after that, the most common experience he had was that when he would walk in to open the store in the morning, he would find the items from that display either rearranged or moved somewhere else in the building to the places where they would have been when it was in operation. And he said that everything would either be repositioned to be hung up correctly, or they would go where Pruitt Black would have wanted things to be.
Why do people keep leaving this crap out?
Exactly. The ghost sees this little display of historical items and is like, who is leaving their stuff all over the station? And would go like put it in its right place. He felt basically that the ghost was cleaning up the place since the store owner didn't seem to know what he was doing with this stuff.
This jabroni.
Right?
This knucklehead.
The antique store closed in the 2000s. A series of businesses with shorter lifespans were in the place after that.
Vape shop.
Right.
Pokemon card stand.
Probably Pokemon vapes. And all the other businesses closed. It's been empty now, as far as I can tell, since like 2016. Interestingly, this building did not stop making history. Over the course of 2012 and 2013, undercover FBI agents posed as investors, quote unquote, attempting to get the city to approve opening a nightclub in a location they referred to as the Firehouse in Charlotte. And the end result of that sting operation was the arrest of the mayor of Charlotte on corruption charges for having taken $46,000 in bribes related to getting this supposed club opened. And the Firehouse was Old Station number 4.
That's amazing. So, it's still serving the community.
Yeah. And as far as I can tell, it's just sitting there empty today, waiting for somebody to come along and rent it out and turn it into a business again.
Are you a excessively wealthy person from Charlotte involved in the banking industry that wants to put your stamp on the town you live in? You should set up the Arcane Carolinas Museum in the Haunted Firehouse.
Yeah, why not? That book, it is just chock full of fascinating locations. It's like restaurants, a secondhand clothing store, somebody's house. None of this stuff is like Reynolda in Winston-Salem. None of this stuff is, a colonial era building. It's not the beach house on Pawleys Island or whatever. It's all modern stuff.
It's smaller stories, it sounds like, too. It's not rehashes.
Yeah. And a lot of them were actually surprisingly scary ghost stories.
Mm-hmm.
The one that's definitely going to be an episode topic in the future involves some criminal activity. And that one, I get the impression that it's a less fun haunting.
Well, this is a great fun haunting. This is perfect for spooky season. I mean, if the audio works out.
I really loved this idea of this fireman who tragically died early. He was 26 when this happened, if I remember correctly.
That's like 47 in 20-25 years.
He'd been a fireman for years. The fact that this was just, one of those dumb accidents that happened.
Yeah, look at the era. He probably started at like 11.
If I remember correctly, he did start at 18. It was kind of wild.
Yeah.
I don't remember now, but he was a really interesting figure.
I want to go work on the fires, Pa. Not till you're 7.
Yeah. And his grave is still decorated. He's somebody who's really remembered still. It's really interesting.
Well, that's why he keeps appearing. He'll stop appearing once people forget him.
That's what the Romans believed.
That's sad. I didn't mean to make it sad.
Okay. Romans believed that if you did not have the living actively remember you periodically, that you would wander in the land of the dead and lose who you were. This is going to be my weird deep dive. Collegias, they were effectively trade unions, kind of trade unions / guilds in the Roman Empire, were organized by profession. And they would have these big annual banquets where they would like say the names and talk a little bit about anybody from the collegia who had died in their memory, so that those people would have somebody actively remember them periodically. Anyway, there are a lot of funereal observations that we have today that come directly from that. And when we say things like they live on forever in our memory, that's one of the sort of practices that we're getting that from.
Little funeral trading cards.
More Pokemon.
Yeah.
Now I really want to come up with funerary trading cards.
They have them.
Do they?
Yeah. It's like a Catholic thing.
Really?
You get a little memorial card about the person. It's a pretty old school thing.
Yeah, that's really old school.
I had a J2P2 card that a nun gave me when he died.
J2P2. John Paul II.
John Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, J2P2 is not a very respectful nickname for him, but yeah. But yeah, when he died, a nun gave me one, and I was like, oh, thanks. But, you know, everyday folks do it too.
Yeah.
Have little cards made up.
Interesting. And I mean, you know, headstones serve sort of the same purpose in a lot of ways. Anyway, that's the story of Charlotte's old fire station number 4.
And my apologies to any vintage hip hop fans for fumbling that lyric early in the episode. I realized it like as soon as I said it, I was like, "Oh, you botched that, buddy."
I mean, I've never known anybody whose first name was Pruitt, so I've probably mispronounced it, and we'll probably get an email from somebody that says that's actually pronounced Sam. So
it is Pruitt. Right. I am Pruitt.
Yeah. We're just gonna have to live through it. It's just gonna have to be okay.
It wouldn't be Arcane Carolinas if I didn't mispronounce or botch something.
Oh my God. It's true.
We've issued corrections though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We're not afraid to issue a correction. We've done that.
We get it wrong. That's okay.
And we'll never bow down to big sassafras though.
You know, I haven't thought about that in forever. Oh my God. You know, the only people who never make a mistake are people who never do anything. So
it's true. You know what book isn't full of mistakes, Michael? Arcane Carolinas Volume 3, which is available now on Amazon.com.
That's true. That book does not contain any wrong information, as far as we can tell.
As far as we can tell.
And if it does, prove it. I think that's everything we have.
All right. Stay weird, people.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Peace. You've been listening to Arcane Carolinas. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. For more episodes, behind-the-scenes information, and links to our social media, check out www.arcanecarolinas.com, where you can also buy the Arcane Carolinas book.
And if you like award-winning horror and science fiction, check out my books at michaelgwilliamsbooks.com. And if you have story suggestions, comments, or questions, email us at arcanecarolinas@gmail.com. And thanks for listening.